morning, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the 2022 Rapid Plus TCT. I'm Brandon Ribic, the Technology Director at America Makes, and I'm happy to be joined this morning with Terry Wohlers. How are you, sir?
I couldn't be better.
Good
and
to
yourself?
see you. Yeah, I'm doing well.
Yeah,
I'm doing
good,
well. I've had
good.
a lot of fun this week,
Yeah,
enjoying
likewise.
some time in Detroit and time here with all our friends.
That's great, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, it's so nice to get out. I think the presence that I've seen here this week, the caliber of the talks and the quality of the discussion.
Yeah.
It's been great. It's been great.
I'm like a kid in a candy store here. I just can't get enough of it. If I had the time, I would just, if this went on for another week, I would be here.
I think that's a special thing. I was talking to some folks this week about the additive community, right? And folks this week have been talking about this sense of community in this industry. And I think something we all share is that love and passion. And I've actually asked folks, we let's remember we have a responsibility to share that with one another, because I think there's a lot of great things that come about from it.
Yeah, and that enthusiasm can be contagious. It snowballs and it makes other people want to learn more and pass it along to people who maybe are new to the industry or thinking about getting into it.
Sure.
Especially young people, but really people of all ages. So,
I agree. So, speaking of, sharing things, you get to see a lot of folks. I know you're a busy man and you get around to a lot of different places and involved in a lot of conversations. I guess kind of, in terms of the AM community, what are some things that you're seeing that are kind of a buzz, seem to be a major priority or an opportunity right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot. We counted in 2021, 266 companies worldwide building additive manufacturing systems. These would be the industrial systems, not the inexpensive under $5,000 units. So 266 companies and another nearly 150 companies that are approaching that, where they are hoping to commercialize systems. Wow. So such a wide range of options now from a customer standpoint, and not all these companies will make it. In fact, the odds are well against many of them, but it's just interesting to see. And then a breadth of materials that are developing, new applications, that's exciting. Companies that are really scaling this into production. And so it's software platforms, some of these MES systems, manufacturing execution systems, that are really helping to really track the systems and where jobs are at and capacity and so forth. And so we're seeing signs of maturity, but not across the board. I mean, there's automotive, for example. They are, especially for the volume automobiles, they are not yet really using this in a big way, other than for design, validation, and tooling. Okay. So there's room for growth there, but aerospace, healthcare, energy, some consumer products as well, we're seeing good traction.
No, I think the narrative that I've been hearing the last few days here at Rapid, I think it mirrors that. One example I heard a bit about, and I'm curious if it's a new and emerging concept for applications and utility of additive, or maybe I'm mistaken. I think they're calling it like bridging or bridge manufacturing, where there was a legacy means of getting a product. For one reason or another, it can't get it. Supply chain issue, etc. But that being said, they found a way by using additive.
Right.
How prevalent is that, Terry?
We're seeing more companies consider that, and some do it, where suppose you need 50,000 units of something and you're waiting for tooling, or there's a hang up in the supply chain and you need to get parts out. So you could build maybe the first few hundred, or even maybe the first few thousand, depending upon the part, the size, and so forth. But yeah, companies are doing that, and I think we'll see that happen more frequently. And the nice thing is that you can, of course, fine-tune the design. Of course, if you have tooling, you're kind of locked into, the design, or you have to rework the tooling, and that's expensive and time-consuming. So,
right.
So I think increasingly companies will see this as, hey, we could get parts out quickly, and maybe we'll stay with that approach. Just get, more companies involved to build parts for us. And it really depends. It's on a case-by-case basis, but the opportunity is there for many companies to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, kind of similarly along those lines, I feel like another consideration that falls within that type of case-by-case, application-specific realm is materials. And you mentioned there seems to be new materials. One conversation we've had was trying to understand the benefit and utility or opportunity of things like alloy development. Are there specific, I guess, kind of hand-in-hand relationships with certain materials and certain applications that you're seeing or that you're hearing about, or there seems to be a common thread amongst the community?
Yeah, well, I mean, certain applications, in fact, most applications require specific types of materials.
Yeah.
Correct? And so, but we are seeing companies substitute, maybe even in the case of metals, maybe we can use a composite part that was grown by 3D printing to replace the more expensive metal part, and it could be lighter as well and just as strong. So we are seeing companies explore that.
Okay.
Our industry, I think, is maybe lacking to some degree composites.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, a number of those materials are out there, but not nearly to the degree that a lot of companies are printing the tooling and then doing composite layups over.
Traditionally.
You're right, exactly.
Yeah.
But using 3D printing to make the tooling.
Yeah,
So.
I think that's been. I think we've seen some demonstrations of that as well in the exhibit hall. So
Right.
I mean, I think that's a great opportunity, and I think I'm personally curious around understanding those kind of business cases, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as you grow the size of the part, the size of the machine, different material systems, we insistently, or I guess we hear again and again, that tooling is a great opportunity application for additive, or the absence of tooling, right?
Right.
And so I think it's that degree of appreciation where how do we make the trade-off, et cetera. Are there other trends that you're kind of seeing across the field of view that you think are noteworthy or going on right now?
I can name a couple. One is buying trends.
Okay.
In fact, I'll be talking about it at 12:30 today in the Grand Ballroom.
Oh, cool.
And one is we asked service providers worldwide, and this past, March is when we published the data, 117 of these service providers, and many of them are the power users of the technology and some of the earliest adopters as well. But in any case, they told us that about 60, right at 2/3 of them are buying the less established machines. So we all know the big brands and companies
Sure.
that have been around for a long time that are well established. They're buying those systems too, but in greater quantity the less established machines, which I think is telling. That's I mentioned the 266 companies.
Yeah.
They're voting with their pocketbooks what they want, and so that's one interesting trend. We also like to look out into the future, and one area is, in fact, I was in Israel last week and went and visited a culture meat company where they're 3D printing living cells of meat, so they can take a biopsy of a steer or a cow, the size of a sesame seed. It will double in size every day, and in 1 month, it'll be the size of that animal, and so that becomes a feedstock to print steak, for example, and that's what in this living cells that they're printing.
Wow.
And so that's interesting. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know that anybody
Yeah.
really does, but I think 3D printing of food it'll be niche-y for I think some time, but
Sure.
for people who don't want, there's opinions about slaughtering, and some in favor, or
Sure.
you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
cattle and other
Sure.
animals. Well, this would avoid that. Yet you could still enjoy the same steak or whatever the food product might be. So that's interesting.
That is really interesting. That reminds me of something I heard about a few weeks ago. I was fortunate enough, I made a trip to Cornell University, and they were talking to me about some bioprinting there, and the idea was using additive to provide potentially like cells or a cellular tissue, but in that case, you would use it to test the behavior or the response to those cells for drug development, for the development of a medicine,
Sure.
and to see how those cells respond.
Right.
And I think that's a really interesting application that I've seen it in other domains where folks are saying that, well, maybe we don't have to just make the part, right? We can use additive to accelerate the development of a completely different product, right? It's a key piece to a workflow, to a higher end state.
Exactly. Just yesterday I bumped into, we had a meeting with Apricia. Apricia is the first company to, and still the only one to get FDA clearance for a drug. It's called Spritum. It's for epilepsy patients. And so, and they received clearance in 2015, and they've been on the market since. And they're working on other types of tablets and for other types of treatment. And really quite interesting. They had a sample packet where it doesn't have the drug, but it's the same formulation or the same configuration, I'll call it. It's about 50% porous, the tablet is. But in any case, I took one yesterday.
Yeah.
So, bottle of water, put it on your tongue, and you swallow it, and before it hits your throat, it's dissolved.
Gone.
It's gone.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's the sort of the magic behind it for this type of treatment, because some people have difficult, they can't swallow very well.
Sure.
So, but in any case, that's interesting. The whole idea of 3D printed medicine, I think, is that'll be big at some point in the future.
Sure. And I've been really happy to hear about how people are, and I think I might be talking to some folks later today about this, of like, how do we go from development to pre-production to a release product? And I think actually, folks like ASTM, with the standards community and that, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. A lot of folks are talking about qualification, which, different communities use different words. I mean, some say validation, or there's different procedures and processes depending upon the regulatory requirements.
Yep, exactly.
But that being said, thinking about ASTM and kind of how things have evolved in the last year, and now being a part of that group, is there anything going on there exciting? Or
Absolutely. I couldn't be more excited to be a part. Our company, after 35 years, was acquired by ASTM International.
Okay.
And it launched a center of excellence in additive manufacturing in 2018. And so we're a part of it now. And the group is around 25 people. They're hiring new. We have somebody from the FDA, from Caterpillar, GK in aerospace. I mean, just industry experts. And so now we're a part of that, and our team is, of course, integrated, and so I couldn't be happier. I mean, great people, 124-year history of the organization, and it's world class. They have 13,000 standards around the world that are in practice today, that are being used, and so it's all about research to standards. That's what the Center of Excellence is all about, and we're glad to. And what's more is they're wanting to build up even more our capacity in consulting, advisory services, publications, speaking engagements, and training, where we do these DFAM, Design for Additive Manufacturing courses. In fact, we have one coming up in July in Youngstown at America Makes. I don't know if you know that, but this is a new development. We just announced it, so that's exciting. So
it is. Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned some of those things. I can remember years ago when you and I first met, and I remember seeing you speaking, thinking of speaking, and I just remember saying, like, wow, he's a terrific speaker.
Oh,
you're so personable.
you.
I think if there's one thing I describe to anyone about you, and I encourage them to get to know you, is that you're incredibly personable, and I think it's a testament to like how many folks and your awareness and the great things that you've been able to achieve. And thinking back on some of that.
Thank you, by the way. That was very kind of me to say that.
Sir, for sure. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. And I was thinking about we were talking a little bit, and you mentioned kind of your history with America Makes, and this year being a big year, our 10-year anniversary or birthday or whatever we want to call it, right? The oh wow,
Yeah.
look where we've come.
Yeah.
And so, you were mentioning to me, how things, your engagement there, and are there some things that like you've kind of seen change over the years, or what's that been like? I mean, to see how it's kind of come along.
Yeah, so in 10 years, a lot has changed, but in some ways, little has changed. It depends on what we're referring to here. But with America Makes a Ton, I was lucky enough to be a part of the proposal team in 2012 with Ralph Resnick. He led the team, NCDMM, and it was great. And so it was the winning team, of course. And
Sure.
And so the thing that I thought was so good about, well, many things, but one is that they had people, talented people, and an infrastructure already in place. So it was off the ground almost immediately. Whereas some of the other teams that were proposing to become this national center, it would have taken much longer. So I think America Makes was able to do so much more in the early years, and now advances are coming about now with some of the members, the programs.
Yeah.
The future is exciting with America Makes, and we're just happy to be a part of it.
Same here. Yeah, no, I think, all the collaboration that exists within the community, within the America Makes membership, the ASTM COE, and how, vital all these pieces are, right? And the communication and the sharing and the open-mindedness and sharing the passion. It's definitely important. In fact, I was just talking to John Barnes before this, and we were talking about that kind of collaboration. So it's funny to see how these relationships, an idea years ago has become, this an institute, right?
Yeah.
So it's special.
And it's been the model too for these other institutes. So
For sure.
proud to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Same here. Yeah. So, well, Terry, it's great to see you, sir. I'm so glad that
likewise,
you
Brent.
were able to come and join me for a little bit here this morning, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your time at Rapid.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.